What a pleasant background. Hopefully it'll be here for some time, but who knows. Look, you realise nature doesn't care. It doesn't care what Trump or Musk or you or I believe or think. It doesn't care. It doesn't have the capacity to care. It basically reacts to what's happening around it. Now, I know everybody's a hoop regarding the fires in Los Angeles, but let's not forget there's been many other exceptional natural disasters, including tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions that have occurred in the last few years that have caused major issues. And the fact is that while I'm talking to you here, if a snake comes out from behind me and I move quickly, the chances are the snake sees me as a threat and will bite me. Simple. It's a natural response to the situation the snake finds itself in. If I remain still, the chances are it'll go on its way. So it doesn't matter what Mr. Trump, the new President of the United States of America, thinks or believes regarding the climate emergency. If he believes it's a hoax or it's exaggerated, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters in terms of outcome, but it doesn't matter to nature. Nature responds according to basic, scientifically proven principles. That's how it responds. And you may believe with your heart and your soul, and your religious leaders may tell you and your political leaders may tell you that climate change is just overblown, doesn't exist, it's a hoax. The fact is that if you do nothing about it, things will continue to get worse. See, we live in a closed system, and that's what we seem to forget. You need to remember that there are as many stars in the universe as there are grains of sand on the beaches of Earth. Think of that. Think of that simple statement. There are as many stars in the universe as the number of grains of sand on the Earth. Next time you go to the beach, try to count the grains of sand. You'll find it's an impossible task. An impossible task. So why am I saying this? The fact is, we are a minuscule dot in the universe. And we are a closed system. What do I mean by a closed system? The fact is, you've all heard of the phrase, there is no second Earth. And there is no second Earth. It's a closed system. And we have evolved as a species, like every other species on the planet. We have evolved to deal with the particular situation we find ourselves in. And if our behaviour begins to interfere with the particular situation we find ourselves in, then there are consequences. And that's what the climate emergency is about. I mean, Earth, the blue planet, is surrounded by an atmosphere. That atmosphere is made up of three zones: the tropozone, the stratosphere, and the mesosphere. And the troposphere is an area which ranges in width from 7 kilometres at the poles to 15 kilometres at the equator, which holds the nitrogen, 20.95%, which is so important, critical, fundamental for photosynthesis if you're a plant, and respiration if you're an animal or a human being. That's it. So we're living on the surface of a sphere, which at its very heart is full of molten lava, and we see that molten lava spill out, creating new landforms, surrounded by an atmosphere where about 15 kilometres of troposphere is what keeps us alive. So it is a closed system. I'll give you a simple example of what a closed system is and what happens if you interfere with the balance of a closed system. Let's say we created a Garden of Eden under a dome for mice. We put little Adam and Eve, little mice, in this Garden of Eden. Minuscule population, plenty of resources, lots of lovely oxygen under the dome. And then Adam and Eve do what Adam and Eve do. Breed. As the number of mice increase in this closed system, you have pressure on the environment. As the pressure on the environment increases, you've got changes to their atmosphere. And we'll get to the situation where we have Adam and Eve's progeny eating each other in order to survive. Now, history is replete with all civilizations that have disappeared. Mighty civilizations which felt impregnable, which were able to subdue their enemies, who failed, some catastrophically, suddenly, others over a period of time, as the climate changed, as the water decreased. And although they used every element available to try to mitigate the extent of that changes to their environment, those societies eventually failed. But we are in a much more difficult situation. We are facing of the four horsemen, the four biblical horsemen of the apocalypse. One, increase in population growth. We currently have 8 billion people on the planet. We're told we'll have 10 billion by the 2060. Limited resources. Earth was created with limited resources. As we attempt to transfer from a fossil-fueled economy to an economy which is based on renewable energy, we see what happens. It's a difficult transition. We as human beings are faced with the situation that many people on the planet, for whatever reason, whether it's an economic reason, whether it's a religious reason, whether it's a philosophical reason, believe that the climate emergency doesn't exist. But nature doesn't care. It doesn't care. It reacts to the situation it finds itself in. And as the amount of carbon dioxide, which is normally less than 0.04% in the troposphere, increases, heat increases. As heat increases, there are major issues regarding the climate, and we are seeing that over and over again. But we have powerful leaders, the Trumps of the world, the Putins of the world, who are more interested in their own survival and their own beliefs and their own hallucinations are more important than the future of the planet itself. and continue to try to somehow change nature. Of course, as human beings, we have the capacity to change nature. But when you have the four horsemen of the apocalypse, increasing population growth, limited resources, rapidly escalating CO2 levels in the troposphere because of fossil fuels being the basis of our economic development, and last but not least, a world which is dominated by a desire to create profits through manufactured human needs, irrespective of human, social and environmental factors. Now, people will tell you that the climate changes. It does change. But the fact is that what we are seeing today are changes which human beings, if there isn't a major modification in our behaviour in terms of our economic systems, that will drive us to a situation which makes the current fires in Los Angeles, the current victims of tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanic explosions, a small fry. Because nature doesn't care. As I said, there was a snake behind me and it came out and I panicked. There's a good chance it would panic and bite me. That's what it reacts to in order to survive. If I stay still, the chances are it'll go on its merry way. And that's the fact. Nature does not care. Nature doesn't care what gods or God we believe in. Nature doesn't care about your sexual orientation, the language you speak, the colour of your skin, the cultural norms you follow. It does not care. It doesn't care about the human race. It doesn't care. Obviously, we have a symbiotic relationship with the natural world. And the natural world survives because of that cooperative relationship which exists between all forms of life, except when human beings appeared on the planet, and we believe that it was our God-given right to destroy the planet for our own economic advancement. So in 2025, it doesn't matter what you believe, who you worship, how you identify. What matters is what you do and how you do it, and whether it's all about you or it's about the community you live in and work in. Because if it's all about you, it doesn't matter. Because what will happen is the destruction will escalate. The call, the desire for a strong leader to lead us out of the wilderness will increase. More authoritarian figures will take over sovereign nation states, and we will be crucified as a people on their belief systems, because belief systems are irrelevant. What is relevant is our interaction with the natural world. Ask the people of Easter Island who cut down every tree on the island and look at the devastation. Ask the people of many South American civilizations whose ruins are now found in the jungles, mighty civilizations which collapsed. Ask, and you will find that nature does not care. So you have options. You can continue to believe what you believe, but the consequences will overtake you. Although our human ingenuity and our scientific ability may be able to put back the day of reckoning, the fact is, while the four horsemen of the apocalypse, increasing population growth, limited resources, a climate emergency due to human activity, and a world dominated by private investment for private profit mantra based on manufactured want, irrespective of the human, social and environmental costs, we will continue to march, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we acknowledge or not, towards an abyss. For us to think that as one minuscule planet orbiting a sun, which is one of billions of stars in the universe, that somehow we are special and that somehow we don't respond to our natural environment, that somehow we can continue our destruction of our natural environment for economic gain, that somehow we will continue to survive, is ludicrous. But what isn't ludicrous is that those with power and wealth will use that power and wealth to maintain their survival at your expense, irrespective of what authoritarian leader you put your faith in, irrespective of what religious leader you put your faith in. They will use every means that their wealth and power puts at their disposal to ensure they survive. And that's the dilemma we face. Do we allow this minuscule minority to continue to dominate every aspect of our existence, or do we fight back? Initially, intellectually, ultimately, physically. Because no group in human history has willingly given up their power to exercise their authority over others. If you're interested in these ideas, I encourage you to look at the Public Interest Before Corporate Interests website. Possibly you may like to join. Thank you. Who knows what we'll talk about next week, and I'll keep my eye out for that snake.